Welcome back. I'm here with Paula Conlon, who's an associate professor of ethnomusicology here at the University of Oklahoma, who specializes in American Indian music. Hi, Paula.
Hi there.
Thanks so much for coming.
Oh, it's good to be here.
All right, great. Well, thank you again for bringing the many things that you've got to and just for your time. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit, just to start us off, about how your interest in American Indian music came about.
Well, I'm from Canada, and I grew up in Ottawa, Canada, and so I've been around powwows. And when I was trained as a musician, someone suggested I look at Native American flute. I was trained in classical flute, and that was it. That's what I've done since then.
That's your major field of focus, even though you've studied in other places like stomp dance music. The Native American flute is home for you. Is that right?
Yeah, but I would also say that when I came down here for stomp dance, the day I came, I was introduced to Linda Alexander, and I had the honor of driving her to somewhere between 100 and 200 stomp dances, and she's my stomp dance mother, basically.
All right.
So I would say, but that happened after I came here.
Okay, so you've been in plenty of time then at stomp dance too.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Mostly in Creek country? Muskogee
Yes,
Creek?
because that would be her. Well, we travel all over Oklahoma, but basically do the rounds for the creek.
Okay.
Mainly.
Very good. Well, and you're an ethnomusicologist. I wonder if you could tell folks a little bit about what that means. How do you go about doing the study that you do?
Well, I usually say Native American music specialist. I am technically ethnomusicologist. And I would just say it's music and culture is what I do.
Okay, so you're putting the two of them together. And so in order to study the music, there are some component parts to that you would take a look at. In studying music, what do people need to know about? What are the issues that you describe?
Well, I sort of flip it on the students and say I play them something, and especially music majors, because they need to learn some new vocabulary for non-Western music, and just say, what do you hear, and tell me what you think it is. And then, when do you think it's played, where is it played? So you contextualize the music.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think I follow you. So at that point, when you're starting to talk about where and when it's played, then you start to introduce some questions about culture.
Yes.
Okay.
And who is playing this music, and then eventually, what are the features? I mean, what are you hearing in the music?
Right.
But essentially, you have to figure out what is being played or what it sounds like. So that's how I do it.
Okay, very good. Well, maybe we could start talking a little bit about some powwow music too.
Okay.
Another place where I know that you've spent plenty of time learning about the music and the culture. So could you tell us a little bit about the different kinds of powwow traditions?
Well, I think the main split is northern and southern. So in Oklahoma, you have southern, since it's southern plains, but both have the drum around the powwow drum. And that was also the first day. I came in 1996, and I got also introduced to Steve Littleman and his family. So it'd be mainly Kiowa tradition, and so I think a key feature differentiating would be the southern plains, the men drum, and the women sit behind. And I've had the honor and privilege to get to sit with the women periodically and try and figure out what's going on and when we should come in. And then also just for dancing. One thing I think differentiates southern from northern would be gourd dance. The gourd dance that happens in the afternoon before the powwow. So I would say that would be the contextualizing it, and not so much the contesting is how I would go about it.
Right. When we're first looking at the kinds of dances that people do, so in the Southern Plains style, like the Southern straight dance is kind of the prevalent. But then we also oftentimes see Northern dances happen in Oklahoma too, like the Northern traditional. So these are a little similar. But then we've also got other styles, like you're talking about the gourd dance, which is maybe more of a traditional dance that was resurrected at some point. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. It's and it doesn't have all the different variations the powwow has, and it tends to be left alone. It's very much a key feature, though, of the Southern Plains.
Okay, very good. Then, in addition to these that we've described, there are women's dances. What do we see there?
Well, in Oklahoma, you're going to see the Southern cloth, and Southern buckskin, and you do get jingle coming down from northeast.
A beautiful dance.
Yeah. And fancy shawl coming down, just straight down from Northern Plains. But the women's traditional dance would be the Southern, and it's called usually Southern cloth.
Okay. You mentioned the fancy shawl. This comes, at least from stories that I've heard, in many ways as a kind of response to the men's fancy dance.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about the men's fancy dance and the fancy shawl?
Well, yeah, because the men's fancy dance, you've got those big bustles. I think a couple of women decided they wanted to move around more.
Right.
So
have a little more fun with the dance.
So they're going to wear bustles, and then they sort of developed their own fancy shawl dance that has that freedom of movement in Charleston and
lots of jumps and
just lots of up, not so much down.
And a lot of fun to watch too.
Really, a lot of fun. Really demanding dance for your basically your lower legs.
I can't keep up with the feet. I don't know where they go. It's just fun to watch them. Okay, so now one of the splits too that I understand happens in the music is that Southern drums tend to go a little slower, maybe a little bit lower on the tonal scale. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't know about powwow music is the words or the vocables. Could you tell us a little bit about how vocables work, where they came from, what they're doing for the music?
Well, basically, I would call them syllables, word syllables, and there's lots of discussion over where it came from or what. So I think what's consistent would be that they may have been words. Well, I'll tell you my definition. You know, it's sounds that came from a culture that, you know, if they don't have a dictionary meaning. And I inherited this definition from Mary Jo Ruggles, who started the ethnomusicology program at the School of Music. But basically, they could be words that are extinct. They could be portions of words. They could be just different sounds. But they're not all the same. If you have, when you know what it is, you know the use of them, it will come from the way that language sound is.
Okay.
So they're not.
Whether it be Kiowa or Caddo.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're going to know. You really could tell if you're if you're around that language. I'll know just if the ones I'm familiar with. I'll still know where it's from, but they're not. And then sometimes they have them. Like the last line will have translatable text, and when you know what you're listening for, you'll hear it.
Okay.
And it means everybody can sing. If you don't, for why would be, it's not one language or another. And if you're looking at powwow, then that's generally intertribal and the whole history with Oklahoma.
Right.
You're going to have people side by side, and they weren't allowed to speak their language, so you have use of them. And you mentioned
that there are songs that everyone can sing. There are also songs that not everyone can sing.
Oh, definitely.
How does that work?
Well, I was even thinking, even within the same context, the same song, depending about the context as well, how it's used. But when I say everyone, I mean everyone who's been invited to sit down and sing. But if you have a song that's made for someone, then you would need permission to sing that song.
Okay, so songs are sometimes owned by maybe families? Okay, and so we're dealing with using a kind of cultural study of the music. We have to understand that there are maybe different cultural permissions or ideas about rights to the music that we're not always accustomed to.
Yeah, and knowing who to ask. If you get permission from somebody that doesn't have it's not theirs to give, you still don't have permission. And so it's really can get tricky.
Yeah,
and
it's a complicated area.
yeah, and it just gets into all of how do you enforce things. You know, if you hear it and you're recording it, just because it's being sung doesn't mean you can record it and sing it whenever you choose. You
And
still
that goes
need,
for other drum groups too. They couldn't just sing anybody's song.
there's some are open and some are. It's the proper way to go about it would be to ask who to ask. Eventually get to the right person, and also to go about it in a way, you know, don't be too much of a hurry, and there's a whole way to go about it.
Okay. I have heard that in some cases the syllabic songs arose in some ways to kind of create more of these open songs. Is that about right? Or is there
It's about right. I mean, I'm aware of Tara Browner is a Choctaw ethnomusicologist, and she has mainly with Northern Plains. So I'll usually review how she's worded it, but yes, to some extent that would be true. I'm
Okay.
just thinking of Kiowa flag song though, is Kiowa flag song, and so it's like
Right.
French irregular verbs. There's a long list. I can agree with you, but I always will say generally.
yes, but?
Yes,
Okay,
but.
yeah.
There's a lot of yes buts.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very good.